Welcome to Phoenix Masonry Live, a show that brings you talented Freemasons, Masonic authors, artists, craftsmen, historians, and Masons of accomplishment. I am Frederic L. Milliken, Executive Director of Phoenix Masonry, and we are here to celebrate our Freemasonry. That's what we do at Phoenix Masonry. We celebrate our Freemasonry. And I am here today to share with you some ideas on how to bring Freemasonry into the 21st century. I will be delivering 2 papers I have written. But let me say, the views expressed in this video do not represent the views of any Masonic Lodge or Grand Lodge, but are entirely those of the author. The first paper is titled, "What Would You Do as Grand Master?" What would you do as Grand Master? I will present this paper that I wrote and published about 8 to 10 years ago or so. Some of the suggestions in this paper have been adopted by Grand Lodges already. Some have not. As we go through the various recommendations in this paper, please realize that it is dated and not current with today's Masonic practice. Yet, there are still possibilities here that have not been tapped. Okay, so let us dream. Let us think. Let us do a little fantasy, okay? Your Grand Lodge has just changed its bylaws to make the Grand Master's term of office 5 years and granted the Grand Master extraordinary powers to implement a new vision of survival. What would you do with that power? First, let me say, Grand Lodges where the Grand Master serves only a 1-year term are highly ineffective. These Grand Lodges are most often really governed by the Grand Secretary and/or an oligarchy of past Grand Masters, not the current Grand Master. That makes them quite undemocratic. And it makes the Grand Master a figurehead, much like the Queen of England, ineffective and unable to implement his vision within such a short period of time. On the other hand, Grand Masters who serve 10 years or more can implement their vision, but they tend to stifle new development and ideas and upward mobility. Remember, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. A middle ground would be for the Grand Master to serve 5 years and 5 years only, with re-election each year. Thus, each year, someone could run against the Grand Master, and if elected, oust that Grand Master at any stage within his 5-year period. But after 5 years, the Grand Master could no longer serve in that position. So with that recommendation, let's get on to what we would do if we were Grand Master and had the power to remake our Grand Lodge. Well, my first act as Grand Master would be to separate the Grand Lodge from the shrine, the grotto, and all other side or appendant bodies except, and note here, except for Scottish Rite and York Rite. Because Freemasonry is dying and becoming irrelevant, drastic, immediate action is required to preserve what we have. Many brothers have commented on the fact that Freemasonry is better off as its numbers diminish. It is not. I repeat, it is not. However, It will become stronger if it downsizes within itself, thereby concentrating on the core message of what is most important that the craft wishes to transmit and stand for. Right now, Freemasonry is competing with itself. Let me repeat that. Freemasonry is competing with itself. And quite frankly, the same brothers cannot do everything. Freemasonry must reduce itself to a philosophical society which is mainly concerned with its members. The core message which drives the craft is the philosophy for which it stands. Everything else is complementary. Philosophy is the meat and the potatoes, and the vegetable and salad are side dishes complementing the meat. We need to, as a society, stop trying to be all things to all people and stop trying to cover all bases and be what we were originally formed to be. We're going to pare the craft down to just its essentials. Isn't that what a good businessman does in time of economic depressions? You might be surprised that we may, with this approach, attract more members at a cheaper overhead. Next, it is vitally important that Freemasonry have a mission to interact with society. It has a mission for itself, but it has been totally lacking for a mission on how to be of purpose to society as well as itself for quite some time. What has been tried is to try to buy friends and recognition by doling out goodies to the general public. Thus has Freemasonry in many jurisdictions pursued the shrine model and turned itself into a service club. That would come to an end. My second act as Grand Master would be to abolish all Grand Lodge charities, except one that followed through on a Grand Lodge societal mission. If local lodges wanted to perform community action programs and public charity, that would be up to them. But I would not impose any Grand Lodge charities on local lodges. There is a reason we no longer get the prominent, powerful, professional men to join our fraternity. Freemasonry came out of the Enlightenment, and as such, in an era of civil government monarchy and Roman Catholic Church monopoly, in other words, a time of totalitarianism and religious intolerance. Freemasonry bucked the trend of the day. It pushed democratic government, separation of church and state, free public schools, and religious freedom. It was societal relevant and hence attracted many movers and shakers within the community. Quite frankly, today we have nothing that we can find common cause with the profane. In looking over the civil issues of the day, I find two that are heads above any other. They are health and education. Freemasonry does much in the health field already, and sometimes too much. So my connection to society and my societal mission would be in the education field, so important in developing good citizens and prospective Masons. I would set up a state education, library, research center open to the public and offer courses in mathematics and history and tutors to any subject free of charge. I would provide a large library and many computers and high-tech audio-visual aids, as well as instructors. In essence, this would be a school and research center available to the public and the craft. We are in the information age, and I would want my Grand Lodge to be a leader in that field. It harks back to Freemasons of centuries ago who worked so hard for education and free public schools. Next, as you might have gathered from my drift so far, we are headed for extinction. What is killing many lodges is that as their membership dwindles, they are still faced with the enormous costs of maintaining an old, drafty, antiquated building. The reason Freemasonry does not grow in many lodges is that every cent that they take in goes to maintaining that building, and no money is left over for Masonic programs to help subsidize the practice of Freemasonry. Therefore, my next act as Grand Master is to require that all lodges within a 25-mile radius meet in one building. That would require many lodges to sell their building and manage and merge into another already in operation, or many lodges to divest themselves of property and build a brand new building for many lodges. Brand new buildings are more difficult, more efficient, let me say, up to code and less costly to operate. 10 lodges that met in a building could all pay rent, thereby sharing the costs. Local lodges, through jealousy and stupid pride, will most often refuse to take this step by themselves. As Grand Master, I would force them to do so for their own good. This is called practicing economies to scale, which any good businessman would do in a time of economic downturn. I recognize that this would be a very hard thing to accomplish for rural lodges. So I would mandate that there be one lodge building in every county of a state in which one or more chartered lodges operate. If a county had, say, 3 lodge buildings, I would ask them to consolidate into one building. Freemasons in that county would have to travel to what would be, hopefully, one central Masonic temple. If a county had no lodge buildings, then if a new lodge was chartered in that county, their temple would be the only one for the county. Future lodges in the county would be required to use this lodge building. I think to implement this program, lodges in rural areas would need to get a special Grand Lodge subsidy. To meet the demands and choices of the 21st century, my Grand Lodge would need to get much more in tune and in practice with the use of computers and the internet. I would immediately upgrade my jurisdiction's computer hardware with the most modern system available. Include running a Grand Lodge server from which all local lodges could connect. I would create a Grand Lodge position of communications director with a full staff to support him. Some of the areas I would charge my communication director to work out on would be: 1, a software program of accounting standard for all lodges with capability of filing all Grand Lodges reports electronically. 2, a Grand Lodge website of unique distinction. 3, a Grand Lodge Masonic forum and discussion board. 4, ability to tap into the Grand Lodge library, the new instruction center, and the research society. 5, a Grand Lodge radio show, a podcast from the Grand Lodge with interviews of Masons of the day with all in participation. 6, a Grand Lodge cable TV show. 7, a Grand Lodge movie production dealing with many different subjects. 1 for those inquiring about membership, and others on the history of the Grand Lodge, and still others on current events and ceremonies. DVDs and CDs would be available for a nominal cost. 8, PowerPoint and DVD presentations on the degrees to supplement lodge education programs. 9, a quarterly Grand Lodge magazine geared to philosophical and esoteric Masonic thought rather than meet and greet photographs. Next, I would streamline the participation of Grand Lodge members in the decision-making process of their Grand Lodge. 1,200 members coming to a grand session and trying to legislate and vote on proposals in one weekend with everybody wanting a say is totally unwieldy and, frankly, managed chaos. I would immediately institute a Masonic Legislature whereby many members would be represented by one legislator. Thus, a body of fewer than 100 legislators representing all the members of a jurisdiction could gather to debate and vote on Grand Lodge business and proposals. This would not do away with Grand Lodge session, but would rather allow the Grand Session to devote more time to planning, addresses, workshops, and inspiration, rather than hours and hours of haggling. Think about it. Can you imagine all 300+ million Americans showing up in Washington one weekend to vote on our nation's future? So why let it happen in Freemasonry? My next ruling would be to allow all lodge business under $2,000 in cost to be conducted outside a tiled meeting by the 3 principal offices and whoever else they would like to include. The lodge has voted on and put their trust in their master and wardens, and I am sure that they can be trusted to make decisions of the lodge in the small day-to-day minutiae that comes before it, rather than take up lodge time with trivial pursuit. Thus, we would eliminate the mundane form our meetings take and could then hold meetings of great dining, great Masonic education, and great Masonic speakers, and great fellowship. I would allow and suggest that all lodges in my jurisdiction go from a twice monthly or a monthly meeting to a quarterly meeting with an additional quarterly meeting for degree work. Thus, I would be ruling that there would be a 4-month minimum between each degree. I would charge each district deputy to form district degree teams for each degree with representation from all the district lodges, whereby each degree, 4 months apart, would be performed on all candidates for their degrees from every lodge in the district on the same night at the same place. In addition, I would form a state degree team and offer the Grand Lodge for a giant raising if desired. I would form a research society for my Grand Lodge, and I would charge each district deputy to form district esoteric research study groups that meet separately from lodge meetings. I would allow liquor served at Masonic buildings to be a local lodge decision, but never disallowing it as a Grand Master. I would, again, acting on economies to scale, arrange at reasonable costs for all lodges, insurance bargained for at group rates, including all. This insurance would include liquor liability insurance. Lodges could rent out their facilities for public functions. I would also charge the Grand Lodge ruling. I would also change the Grand Lodge ruling that stipulates that the Grand Lodge owns a local lodge building. From now on, a local lodge owns its own building set up under whatever tax structure they deem to be in their best advantage. The only provision in the bylaws would be a requirement that in the event of sale or foreclosure, that Grand Lodge has the first right of refusal. As Grand Master, I would outlaw all fundraisers. Lodges within my jurisdiction must charge enough in dues to cover all their expenses. I would mandate a district lodge of instruction for all candidates run by the district deputy to ensure that all candidates receive the proper instruction at the start of their Masonic journey. I would empower a district board of questioners and a state speakers bureau with Grand Lodge paying speakers a stipend and travel money so that local lodges could afford them. Excuse me. All this I would do because Freemasonry is dying. It has lost its focus. It has lost its sense of mission and bonding with society. It has lost its capacity and capability to put on good degrees all the time. It has lost its commitment to Masonic knowledge and philosophical thought. It has become populated by a brotherhood more interested in the social time than in the virtues of Freemasonry. And the know-nothing leaders of our craft. Let me repeat that. The know-nothing leaders of our craft are leading us down a path of ruin. Once again, our youth is filled with many seekers, searching for added meaning and purpose to their lives. That purpose and meaning is right here in Freemasonry if we operate it correctly. But if we just give lip service to the great body of esoteric thought and the Masonic way of life that is there for the study, we will lose them to another organization that is what it says it is. We don't need to help everybody who isn't a Mason while we starve ourselves. We don't need to become a glorified Lions Club, or as Stephen Defoe said, Rotary with regalia. We don't need to market Freemasonry. All we need to do is practice Freemasonry and offer those seekers a good product, exactly what they are searching for. To enter that path of redemption, now is the time to get creative. Now is the time to think outside the box. Now is the time for radical action. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. I expect there to be many areas of disagreement or comments of, well, we do that already. So mote it be. But unless we come up with a 21st century vision for Freemasonry, we are doomed to irrelevance and/or extinction. So let's start a conversation and carry that conversation into our Grand Lodges so that we may live another day of eminence. And so ends the first paper, and we'll have a spot of tea before we start the second paper. Now, the second paper was written this year, 2018, and it's titled The Quarterly. I drive up slowly, as I always do, to the Gentlemen's Club of Distinction to savor its charm. Not what you were thinking. No nude girls here. This is a beautiful Victorian mansion that hosts an English-type gentlemen's organization. Men who belong can come after work and partake of choice spirits at the beautiful mahogany bar, or have a full 7-course dinner served every weeknight. Or they can enjoy the media room, music room, or computer room therein. The club is open for rental on the weekends, as the gentlemen of distinction only have it on weekdays. We have it reserved 4 times a year on the second Saturdays of January, April, July, and October. I sit in my vehicle out front, just admiring the grandeur of this stately, majestic building, before pulling around to the massive parking lot in the rear. I am early, but deliberately so. I must inspect the premises and see that everything is in order, and especially to make sure we have a bartender and, above all else, a chef preparing us a scrumptious meal. So the biggest worry comes first as I enter through the kitchen-only door at the lower level into a huge kitchen that could be found at both a large hospital and a first-class restaurant. Chef Ramos is here with his crew, and I greet him. "How is everything going, Chef Ramos?" "We are right on schedule to serve you at 7 as requested," he replies. And I ask a question I know the answer to. "And the menu for tonight is?" "Prime rib, potatoes au gratin, French green beans amandine, freshly baked rolls, and pistachio cheesecake for dessert." "Carry on," I retort as I head for the dining room off the kitchen. It takes up most of the bottom floor. The room is quite a bit larger than we need, but it has been set up with extra space between the large tables, draped with expensive white linen tablecloths and linen napkins. And around tables for 8 are comfortable padded armchairs. All seems to be in order. That's good. The house is set up this way with the kitchen and dining room in what most would consider the basement, although it does not resemble such because there is no smoking in the dining room. Upstairs, which is labeled the first floor, there is the bar, a lounge, music room, and the lecture room, where cigars and brandy are in order. And that is where I head next. I proceed upstairs, which is laid out with a bar, lounge, and lecture hall back to back, which can be closed off by sliding pocket doors into 3 separate rooms or opened up into one huge room. The lecture hall seats about 100, and with its doors open, the lounge is a mixture of wingback chairs with side tables and couches and club chairs around coffee tables. And along one side wall is a ledge clustered with captain bar stools. On the other side wall is a beautiful stone-faced gas-powered fireplace. If the bar, which has stools and tables and chairs, is left open, then people can sit anywhere in any of the 3 rooms and hear a presentation being made, as there is a superb sound system connected to all rooms. As a matter of fact, there is all the up-to-date technology: screens, projectors, computer, connectable, portable, battery-powered microphones, and Wi-Fi to make a presentation visible as well as audible and heard and seen in all 3 rooms. The bar and the lounge will have a monitor that picks up whatever is being shown on the screen in the lecture room. This is ideal for relaxation and comfort. And unlike the dining room downstairs, smoking is permitted. So as a lecture is being presented, the single malt, Crown Royal, or Courvoisier VSOP can be enjoyed along with the smoke. There is an excellent fan system that pulls all the smoke out of the rooms to the outside. The bar also has 3 60-inch TVs, while the lounge has 2. The only other room on the first floor is the music room, walled off from the lounge, but again with sliding pocket doors. Inside is a grand piano, more couches, and enough wall outlets to hook up a 25-piece band. I check in with Max, the head bartender, who I see is setting everything up for a busy night. "You have some help on the way, I hope," I say to Max. "For sure, Fred. We will have 3 bartenders and a waitress for tonight." I just love this beautiful mahogany bar with the brass footrail, I say. It reminds me so much of an English or Irish pub. "Right you are, Fred," he says back. The second floor, I need only give a quick check, for it will not be much used. It consists of a media room that seats about 50. It has those adjustable leather media chairs and a huge screen with all the most up-to-date equipment, including some great sound around. We have rented the club past 2 Super Bowl Sundays to experience the game in such a great setting. There is a computer room with 6 computer stations and a printer. And the last public room is the library with its huge floor-to-ceiling bookshelves with a rolling ladder that can circle the room just about. The room has some comfortable leather chairs and couches and a working fireplace. The rest of the second floor consists of 2 bedrooms and a Jack and Jill bathroom, should the need arise for any member to stay overnight. I peek into the media room, computer room, and library and ascertain that all is well. There is a 3rd-floor apartment that is the living quarters of the caretaker and manager of the property. It is still a bit early, about 4 p.m., so I head downstairs for an adult beverage at the bar. We are scheduled for cocktails and hors d'oeuvres from 5 to 6 p.m., followed by some business transactions from 6 to 7 p.m., dinner at 7 p.m., and a lecture at 8 p.m. The mansion is booked until midnight, at which time we must all be out. My second and third in command, Pete and Carl, arrive at 4:30 p.m. "Do you need any help with anything, Fred?" they both ask me at the same time. It has been so easy tonight. I have checked everything and needed to do nothing, I say. Pete and Carl wander off to do a double check. It never hurts to have more than one set of eyes. Soon, other members arrive. We will probably be looking at a turnout of about 130. The bar is putting out buffalo wings, cheese and crackers, stuffed mushrooms, and shrimp. Ben, Matthias, Harry, and Demetrius all gather around me. Matthias pipes up, "Fred, the sale of our building, the change to a quarterly meeting at this beautiful mansion, and the importation of top-notch guest speakers was a stroke of genius on your part." "I agree," adds Harry. "No more taxes to pay, building maintenance to worry about, or other tenants to oversee." "But it wasn't me," I replied. "Remember, we took a vote and it passed." "Yes, but I am no longer getting done for extra contributions, and we no longer do fundraisers," chimed in Ben. And I say, meeting less often and doing it up proud sure beats meeting so often that it is impossible to create such a great program in such a grand setting as we have now, adds Matthias. "We have taken ourselves from the mundane to the exotic." "And I love this place so much," exclaimed Demetrius, "that I became a member of the Gentlemen of Distinction. Now I frequent this wonderful place often after work." "Well, it only costs each of our members an extra $400 per year to meet here with all the amenities, in addition to yearly dues," I add. "That is in reality, just $100 per meeting. Considering what you get in today's world, that's almost a steal, adds Harry. We wander off and mingle. Over to Victor. How is your wife, Victor? I ask. Is she getting any better? Much improvement, thank you for asking, replies Victor. Doug joins us to tell us that he has just changed jobs, and that makes him more available to us now. That is good news, I intone. Just then, our guest speaker walks in. Mike Abrashnoff, former commander of the USS Benfold and author of the best-selling book, It's Your Ship, approaches me. Great crowd you have here tonight, Fred, he says. They're all here to see you, I reply. I doubt that, but we will take them all into the world of leadership. That's why you are here. As more and more arrive, the bar and lounge crowd spills over into the lecture hall and music room. Many are reconnecting with friends they have not seen since the last gathering. Someone places a low, medium-sized cloth-draped table in the middle of the lounge. On this table is placed a volume of the Sacred Law, and around it, 3 pedestals with lights on top. Just then, a loud crack of the gavel is heard by all. Officers will take their stations, and brethren be clothed. Happy hour is over. Lodge is about to open. And so ends this time with you, sharing these 2 Masonic papers. I hope that you will take some time to comment on them and give me some feedback. And that's all for now. This is Frederic L. Milliken, Executive Director of Phoenix Masonry, Party on the Square. Potts.